John Scott, Jonathan Acosta here inside Arrowhead Stadium following the Bills' 32-29 loss in the AFC Championship game. Jonathan, how do you want to start this? I mean, there are a million ways. I guess we can just go with the fact that the Chiefs, in a close game in the postseason, end the Bills' season once again.
We talked about it when we were at the field house on Wednesday, where we were kind of talking about keys to the game, and I said I almost want to go past the X's and O's because I feel like we all know this is going to be a close game at the end, and it's just the Chiefs. They've done it the whole season, and throughout this whole, you can call it dynastic run, they find a way to make the plays when they need to make the plays. They're not the most overwhelmingly convincing team this year. They haven't been blowing teams out. They just make the plays necessary to win the game. And that's, again, what happened here in this game against the Bills. So often the difference in these games, right? Because the last 3 times the Bills have fallen to the Chiefs have been one-possession games. It was the 13 seconds game. It was a 27-24 game last year in Orchard Park, and now another 3-point loss here in Kansas City. Where were those kind of singular plays that made the big difference? Obviously, the 4th down stop, controversially with the angle, and a lot of people felt like Josh Allen got the first down. Chiefs ruled that he didn't. We can look at the 2-point conversions, both of them that were unsuccessful. Is it smart to go for 2 chase points in the first half? That's certainly a coaching decision that can be questioned. The Chiefs were ready for the Bills' QB sneaks, something that was nearly automatic for the Bills all season long. Not the case here in this game. And then ultimately their final play on offense, Josh Allen finds a way to get the ball out of his hands on 4th down. Spagnuolo sends that blitz where it felt like he didn't blitz as often in this game, but Spags is known for his well-timed blitzes and the way he designs them. He called the perfect one on 4th down that forced Josh Allen to get rid of the ball. He does, hits Dalton Kincaid right in the hands, and just like last year when we were talking about Stephon Diggs dropping a potentially game-changing pass, here we are yet again, this time talking about Dalton Kincaid dropping what would have been a huge first down conversion.
We'll start with the first half defense because it stunk. Let's be completely honest with you. The Chiefs opening possession, they're rolling down the field. Only, I think, 3, maybe 4 plays were less than 8 yards. Everything else was 8, 12, 15. I mean, they were just ripping off chunks with no resistance from the Bills defense. And it continued that way. Bills catch a break with a mishandled exchange between Mahomes and Pacheco. It just was, they caught a break. The Bills at the end are in it. But even Taron Johnson, other defensive players afterwards admitted, hey, we did not make enough plays. The passing game was working on us, and when it ultimately came down to needing to make a stop on that last series, they weren't capable of doing it. And that's another one of the things that you talk about deja vu and a nightmare scenario playing out once again. You met all these games, as you said, similar outcomes, 1-score games. It boils down to a play here, a play there. And as AJ Epinesa pointed out going into this game, the difference has always been the find-a-way factor. Chiefs find a way, Bills do not. That played out again. And the defense, first half, they made great second half adjustments, but first half they dug themselves in a hole that ultimately they couldn't overcome and turn the screws late in the game when they needed to.
The team obviously missed Taylor Rapp. I think that was maybe just a tough spot for a rookie Cole Bishop to be making his first playoff start here in Arrowhead in an AFC Championship game. And then obviously losing Christian Benford early on in the game as well clearly impacted the defense, and we can talk about injuries again, the way they were without Terrell Bernard, but ultimately you have to play with the guys that are on the field. Every team is dealing with injuries at this point in the season, and there are opportunities there for this Bills team to make a big stand and get the ball back in the hands of the offense. In my head, the one that I go to is, okay, the Bills score the touchdown to go up 22-21, don't get the 2-point conversion. I think you'd love to see the defense get a stop right there for the Bills to have a chance to go up multiple scores. Didn't happen. And like you said, even on that very last drive, the Chiefs, I think, had to get, 2 first downs? Because they caught a break with Pacheco, gets the first down but goes out of bounds. Hey, you're still in it. You still have 2 timeouts. Okay, get a stop right there. Even if they kick the field goal, okay, you still have a fighting chance. Unable to get the stop right there. And like you said, it's like Groundhog Day, because so often when we talk about these losses to the Chiefs, Josh Allen, the offense, have a great day or do at least enough to put you in position, and the defense sort of lets them down.
Let's go to the 2-point conversions because I think we have differing opinions on it. I'm a fan of them going for the 2-point conversions. The way the game was unfolding early, as we just alluded to with the defense, you were chasing points. You had to keep up with them. So I didn't take issue with Sean deciding to go for 2, and then when they didn't get it, continue to chase the points right before the first half. But I know you disagree.
Yeah, so I'll say it like this. I wouldn't fault anyone for agreeing with the aggressiveness of Sean after that penalty on the extra point to, hey, one play from the one with Josh Allen, get 2 points right there instead of 1, and you don't know if that point can come in handy. I just don't believe in chasing points in the first half, and I think about the domino effect. It's easy to think of, hey, if this is successful, we're set up in a great spot, down by 3 going into the half. But you have to look at it where the defense, I think they were coming off of getting a stop or something like that. I forget what the situation was that the offense got the ball. Either way, the offense gets the ball, drives down the field in the 2-minute drill, scores the touchdown. That's a huge momentum boost.
It was after Kansas City scored a touchdown.
Okay, it was after Kansas City scores a touchdown. Okay, that's what it was. Kansas City goes up by 11, and you're thinking, man, the Bills need points here because the Chiefs get the ball to start the second half. The Bills drive down the field, scoring that 2-minute drill. It's 21-16, and in my head, I'm like, okay, just take the extra point. They kicked the extra point, but after the flag, I'm like, decline it. Take the extra point. You go into the half down 21-17. There's a lot of football. There's a whole half of football left. They go for the 2-point conversion, and Sean McDermott was aggressive in the regular season game. That's why they won it. They went for that 4th down. Josh Allen runs it in for a touchdown. But here, you have to look at the domino effect of if we don't get it. Well, they didn't get it. They're down 21-16, and what happens because of that? They go on and score a touchdown in the second half to take the lead 22-21. But now instead of kicking a field goal to where if it had been 21-17, you kick a field goal to go up by 3. Now it's 22-21. You have to go for 2 again to make it a 3-point game. You don't get it. And now that changes the whole complexity, the whole dynamic of the game.
Well, I think the confidence level is because most times Josh Allen can get you 1 yard.
Yeah.
Tonight was not most times,
No.
and they kept going to that well, and it kept failing time after time after time after time. Listen, Josh Allen goes left on every single one of them. Kansas City knew it. They also have Chris Jones, an all-world beater, right in the middle of the defense, guys coming off the edge. They needed to do something different. It just wasn't working. It's fine, but that's in the back of their mind why they're like, Josh Allen can get a yard. Even if you're going to run a sneak, go to the right, find a different action, do some window dressing, something.
He converted one of those where he just literally leapt over the offensive line.
And he almost lost the ball
almost fumbled
and fumbled it there. So it just was not working, which then leads us to the controversial spot. And I hope people don't just solely get hung up on this because it did not 100% come down to this spot. Was it a critical, impactful, controversial play? 100%. You look at the replays, it sure as heck looks like he reaches the 40-yard line, or the yard to game. They review it and still don't get it overturned. It's going to go further down the narrative of the Chiefs always get the call and the Bills don't get a call and the Bills all get screwed and all this stuff. It did not boil down to it, but I do think they got the call wrong.
I don't want to focus because the Bills they lost because they didn't do enough to beat Kansas City. And coming into Kansas City, you need to have an A+ game to beat these Chiefs because they always find a way to make those winning plays. Something that I want to talk about is James Cook because he was phenomenal in this game. It just felt like they didn't use him enough. 13 carries for 85 yards, 6.5 yards a pop, 2 touchdowns, including an incredible one on the option play on 4th down, the effort to put the hand down to stay up and reach the ball across the goal line. Incredible play. I thought a creative play call by Joe Brady when they might have otherwise just tried Josh Allen up the middle. It wasn't working. They needed to do something different. They get the ball to James Cook. I think as the Bills coaching staff dissects the reasons for yet another loss to Kansas City with this specific one, it felt like one of the main reasons they were in a position to beat them was the strength of the offensive line, the running game. We saw the strength of the offensive line on that touchdown drive to start the second half where they took the lead. It looked like they had told the offensive line at halftime, we're going to put this on you guys, we're going to run the ball. It was successful. I don't know why they went away with it, and I don't know why they went away from James Cook considering the game that he was having, so impactful and so efficient.
They threw the ball just once in the third quarter, and that's when they kind of put their will back on the Kansas City Chiefs
Yeah.
and took control of the game in some capacity. You're right. I mean, that's what they went to, and it kind of shifted a little bit in the fourth quarter, and it wasn't there as much in the first half when they were struggling, especially out the gate. That's another thing. The starts was terrible offensively, defensively. Special teams gave up some returns. They just, in all three phases, from a coaching standpoint, they just did not come out and look like they were either properly prepared or just from a player man-to-man, they just weren't ready to go from the jump.
It's a team that so often this season, and including in the playoffs, especially the defense tightened the screws in the second half, but slow starts, the other team scoring first in all three playoff games. They got away with it against Denver, controlled the rest of the game. It happened against Baltimore, a better team than Denver, a tight game that the Bills found a way to win that game. You can't let that happen against the Chiefs. You can't spot them an 11-point lead at any point in the game, much less in the first half, where, yes, you eventually go score right before halftime to get yourself back in the game, but now you're behind the 8 ball a little bit, and again, you're in a position where you're chasing points instead of playing from a position of strength.
Let's go to the very end, and that being the all-out blitz, Spags calls, and Josh Allen somehow gets it off, shows his arm strength. Dalton Kincaid doesn't come down with the catch. You could say, as Dawson Knox did, defending a teammate, a close friend in the tight end room, that it would have been an unreal catch and momentum going one way and coming back the other way. He's got to make it, and he's a first-round pick, and I think as we shift our attention to the offseason and a lot of conversations and real ones here, I think Brandon Beane has done a really good job of assembling this team and especially finding guys in the mid to later rounds. But the first picks of the drafts for him, especially recently, have not worked out, and that reared its head in a big way here this evening. Keon Coleman, I honestly didn't even see him out on the field very often, except for on throwing a fade at one of the most critical moments on 3rd and goal.
Against Trent McDuffie.
And it wasn't even close. Dalton Kincaid drops that pass at a drop earlier. Were they super, wide open plays? Absolutely not. But if you're a first-round pick that they trade up for and someone that this team believes and has acted as if he's going to be an integral part of the offense, you got to make those plays. Kaiir Elam gets thrust into action because of the Christian Benford head injury, and they went after him. They went after him time and time again, and he's getting face mask penalties and holding penalties, and he's getting beat. That's your number 3 cornerback. And I would have actually liked to see maybe Jamarcus Ingram inserted at some point, but they decided to ride with Elam, a guy that's been a healthy and active more times than not the home stretch of the season.
And everything that you just said is spot on, and it's accentuated when you look at the success the Chiefs have had with their early picks. Xavier Worthy, the guy that Buffalo traded back, Kansas City goes up and gets him. Phenomenal game today. He looks like he's going to be a big piece of this offense going forward. Rashee Rice was a second-round pick that they hit on last year, had a big season for them last year, was on pace to have another incredible season this year before he got hurt. Trent McDuffie, another first-round pick that the Chiefs have hit on. It's a team that has Patrick Mahomes, and when you have that quarterback, it makes it easier to build a team around them, but they've done so well on hitting with those early draft picks, which should be, in theory, the easier ones to hit on. To your point, Brandon Beane has done an excellent job finding the Christian Benfords in the later rounds. But when we look at Keon Coleman, almost a first-round pick, he was top of the second round. Dalton Kincaid, those should be the guys carrying this offense in a gotta-have-it game here in the AFC Championship. Instead, it was Khalil Shakir, and then after that, Matt Collins, which honestly I think he gave this Bills team more than anyone expected this season. But we shouldn't be looking at the box score saying he was the second main pass catcher for Josh Allen in this one.
Yeah, they tried to get Amari Cooper involved. They just, again, I think maybe at the most critical point in the season, you finally saw what happens when you're not maybe intertwined with top-tier talent. As I said going into the game, I felt the biggest difference in these games was usually the stars for Kansas City rise to the top, and the best players for the Buffalo Bills outside of Josh Allen usually do not. James Cook did when he was given the opportunities, but it was Josh Allen, it was James Cook. And where was anybody else on the defensive side of things?
Well, and that's why I think the biggest question, at least on offense, is, again, why did they not lean more on the run game throughout the game? And then especially once they saw that it was, pardon the pun, when the run game was cooking. We all said coming into this game, the strength of this Bills team that lacked stars, like you said, outside of Josh Allen, was the offensive line. Okay, put the game in the hands of your best players, in this case the offensive line, and let run the ball, go attack the Chiefs. This Chiefs defense was susceptible to some run plays. We saw the Bills were getting good yardage on runs. They were efficient in the run game with James Cook. I just don't understand, especially it seemed like Sean McDermott had wanted to build this Bills team into a team that could run the ball more often for the playoffs. All of a sudden, they get away from it in this game. It's just something that baffles me.
And now begins an offseason of a lot of questions, of finger pointing, of what's next, because that's really the question here. What does this team have to do to beat that other team that continues to end the Bills season and go on to Super Bowls? They're close, obviously. It's a play here, it's a play there. I don't think you need drastic action, but I had even said before the Bills played this football game, win or lose, win the Super Bowl, lose in this game, there's some decent roster moves that I think need to be made. I think maybe I'd be okay with one, if not both safeties, not being back for the Bills. I don't think Rasul Douglas had the greatest season either.
No.
I don't think you necessarily, even though you don't like Kyer Elam right behind him, I don't know if I need to pay a lot of money for Rasul Douglas to come back. The defensive line continues to need some impactful players on that side of the ball. And this everybody eats thing was a cool, nice little fun story. You got to get some legit talent at the wide receiver position because you got to continue to feed Josh Allen with the proper weapons surrounding him at this point in his career. So that's all stuff I felt, whether win or lose, and I think that's just going to be amplified, the pressure on Brandon Beane, on top of the pressure Sean McDermott's now going to feel, because I think it's now reasonable, as great as they've been, to start wondering as we enter year 9 here with McDermott, if they can't get over the hump even next season, as great of a job and of a coach that I believe Sean McDermott, and I've really stood up for him, I think that the questions and the conversations can be more real now.
You got to eventually get over the hump. You have a generational quarterback in Josh Allen. That's a quarterback that at this point in his career you feel like he would have deserved to have played in a Super Bowl by now. It's just this Chiefs team that stands in the way, right? And I think it might have been unfair with the way the games had gone before and everything to say the Bills have a Chiefs problem. You can't get around it. The Bills have a Chiefs problem. When you lose to one team, the same team, 4 times in 5 postseasons.
In similar fashions each time.
In similar fashions, at least the last 3. You have a Chiefs problem. And it's something that Peyton Manning dealt with early in his career, going up against Tom Brady and the Patriots. He eventually found a way to get over that hump with Tony Dungy. I'm sure Bills Mafia would love to say that they believe that Sean McDermott can do the same with Josh Allen. He said it as much in his post-game press conference that it's a tough challenge figuring out how to get past him, but that they're going to figure it out. A lot of the comments were, you've had a long time to get it figured out and you haven't done so. So what gives you the confidence to do that? I think to your point, the biggest thing would be some roster moves. And to go off what you said, wide receiver talent. It doesn't need to be an alpha diva number 1 because I do think the chemistry that this team had was very good. No, they didn't win a Super Bowl, but the vibe, again, the chemistry that this team had, I think was that of a team capable of winning a Super Bowl. And then I think you need to go get an elite pass rusher. Because one of the few times that we saw the Bills defense stand up, I think the Chiefs came down into the red zone, and then they got, I want to say it was a sack on Mahomes that
Jordan Phillips
forced them to kick a field goal. On a night where they weren't getting a whole ton of stops, that felt like almost like a win for the Bills defense. Imagine if you were able to get a little bit more of that more consistently. The way the Chiefs sometimes get big plays on defense from Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, guys that can get after the quarterback. The Bills need a trustworthy one of those. That's what they thought they were getting in Von Miller. Age, injuries have impacted that sort of thing. Greg Rousseau, I think, a very talented defensive end.
He's a complimentary guy.
He's a complimentary guy. He's not the number 1. He's better, in my opinion, at stopping the run than getting after the quarterback. You need that guy where it's 3rd and 8. You can tell him, attack. And you can count on him to come up with 1 or 2 big sacks in a big game like this. And the Bills just don't have that guy.
Such begins the offseason of the now what ifs. What should they do? A lot of questions surrounding a team that overachieved. And I think that's also the interesting dynamic of this is, had I told any of us the Bills would lose by 3 points to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, if I said that in July, I didn't believe it. I had them as like a 9-10 win team, probably win the division, but it would be a dogfight and not be a legitimate contender to reach and win a Super Bowl. They overachieved. They became that. But again, I think that as good and great of exceeding expectations as it was, there still is a long way to go to build a team that can actually get over the hump.
It's a message that Bills fans don't want to hear right now, but Sean McDermott did say that the future is bright for this team, especially with the amount of young players that played this year, whether it be because that's just where they landed on the depth chart or injuries force them up the depth chart, that the future was bright for this team. And I do think they have some good young pieces. We've talked about their struggles of maybe at the very top of the draft, but again, Brandon Beane has done a good job of finding complementary pieces, depth pieces, guys that can come in and play in the middle of the draft. Terrell Bernard, for example, being a middle round pick. Again, Christian Benford. Ray Davis might grow into a very nice piece at running back as a middle of the round draft guy. So I think for Bills fans, this loss is going to sting. That's okay. Let it sting for a few days, but eventually the offseason will come around, free agency, the draft, and with a quarterback like Josh Allen, I feel like you just do have to have the hope that this team is so close to figuring it out that they almost have to stumble their way into figuring it out one of these years, whether it's they go beat Kansas City or someone does the job for them and then they have a different path to the Super Bowl. Well, but it feels like if they're eventually going to get over the hump of going to the Super Bowl, it feels like it would only be right for them to finally slay the demon, slay the dragon that is the Kansas City Chiefs.
You got to get some luck to win it all.
Yeah.
It's not just skill and talent. Bills just haven't had the right combination of it to this point. The end of a very good season. And again, now we shift to the offseason, draft, free agency, all that fun stuff. And we will obviously continue the conversation because this is kind of the fun part.
The Combine is only a few short weeks away.
Yeah, and Senior Bowl starting soon too as well. All right, with Jonathan Acosta, I'm John Scott for Channel 2 Sports.